we should all know about the Hyundai N division by now. In 2017, they hit the scene with a hot version of the i30 that was so good it made the Golf GTI feel boring. Fast forward a few years and the N division has not only added a smaller hot hatch to its ranks in the form of the i20N, it's also given the performance treatment to its small SUV, the Kona.
What's interesting is that there's a million different versions of the Kona. There's a petrol, a diesel, a hybrid, there's a Kona electric, and then of course there's the cool one, or should I say the hot one, because it's got the spicy engine, the Kona N. The N, by the way, stands for Nürburgring, where this car was tested, bizarrely, but also Namyang, which is Hyundai's South Korean research and development facility. You're welcome.
Next, I'll treat you to a look around. It has a mean grille, extra nostrils just under the bonnet, and some sinister looking headlights. In profile, it has 19-inch lightweight alloy wheels sitting nicely under chunky wheel arches to give it a muscular vibe. And then, around the back, a big old spoiler with a high-level brake light, and down the bottom, a diffuser, I guess? No debate about those exhausts though. They sound the business.
So, what's it like when you drive it in anger? Well, there's two ways of looking at this car, I think. Whoa! It's lively. One is to say, oh my God, it's a bit of an animal. One way of looking at it is to say the crossover market is not the most exciting in the world, so meh. The other way to look at it is to say the crossover market is not the most exciting in the world, so why not have a powerful one that's engaging and fun and wants to kill you? Under the bonnet, it uses a 2-litre 4-cylinder turbocharged engine, the same one as you find in the i30N. Oh my God! And then it makes 280 metric horsepower and 392 newton meters of torque. Now, that's not a mad number by any stretch of the imagination, but this engine was a right old giggle in the i30N, and it is here as well. All of that power gets sent to the front wheels via an 8-speed dual clutch gearbox. So it'll do 0 to 62 in 5.5 seconds, and if you keep your foot pinned, I'm not going to down here because it's a little bit sketchy, it'll reach 150 miles an hour. So it might not look like much, this thing. I tell you what, it's a quick old car. Yes, yes. And if you're one of those people who thinks that that level of power isn't sufficient for you, well then guess what? Because this big old red button on the steering wheel is the N Grin shift button, NGS. You push that and it gives you an overboost function for 20 seconds. It gives you an extra 10 horsepower, so 290 for 20 seconds. And there's a little countdown on the dashboard. I'll tell you what, ordinarily, I wouldn't have thought that 10 extra horsepower would feel like much, but you do feel it in this. It's like a little terrier. I'll tell you what else it does as well. It makes the gear shifts a bit snappier and makes the exhaust even more antisocial. It's basically an ASBO button. On top of that, there's several different drive modes to play with. So you can see 2 blue buttons on the steering wheel. The one on the left lets you cycle between Eco, Normal and Sport. And all that does basically is it stiffens up the steering for you and it increases the level of throttle response. But the N button on the right gives you N mode. And that, it causes a little flame graphic to display on the driver display and just makes everything as angry as possible. Woo! Tell you what, you can really feel the upshifts in this car in N Grin mode. It's very, very violent. Every time it changes up, there's a significant bang, like an increase in torque. It's something I've never really felt on a hot hatch before, and it's very welcome. Wow, that's good. That is properly good.
So it's a giggle. Obviously not everyone will buy one and take it to a race circuit, so it's worth saying a few things about what it's actually like with your sensible hat on. And it's pretty good. As you've probably seen, the suspension feels like there isn't any, but if your family don't mind being bounced around, there's decent room inside. Plenty of space in the back, a 374-litre boot, and enough space up front for grown-ups to not feel too claustrophobic. The materials aren't necessarily premium, but it has good equipment. There are no options on the Kona N. You get everything, including a heated steering wheel, heated seats, 10-inch display with CarPlay and Android Auto. It's refreshingly generous. But more importantly, it's just fun to drive.
Right, so let me just talk you through a few things. The throttle, very responsive. Steering, quick, direct, not brimming with feel, but certainly accurate enough. Brakes, 360 millimeters on the front, 314s on the rear, and it does stop well. And the car's light too. It's only around 1,500 kilograms, which means it does feel quite agile. Wow, it's so lively. The Kona N also has a limited slip differential on the front, which in theory should help it get its power down through corners such as this one. But what you notice is there's a little bit of torque steer where when you accelerate, the car wants to slightly pull to the left or right. So that is something to be mindful of, but I'll tell you what, it does make the experience a little bit more interesting. It's also got an old school manual handbrake, which is for people who are feeling daring, according to Hyundai. Guess I'm feeling daring today. So in summary then, I think it's fair to say I really like the Hyundai Kona N. I mean, a small performance SUV is definitely not at the top of my shopping list. I would probably personally want to go for the i30N, but I tell you what, having driven this, I've fallen in love with it. I think it's brilliant. It is probably the most fun I've had in a small SUV in my entire life. And I tell you what, you can't say fairer than that. Get one.